Welcome, reindeer, elves, and carolers, to another Christmas edition of the Hidden Creek Manor. This is going to be a DIY episode. Today we are going to build a Letters to Santa mailbox. And not just any Letters to Santa mailbox. We're going to build one on wheels. Full disclosure, guys, the reason I built this was not originally for Christmas, but as I was building it, I saw the value and how it could be used as a Christmas prop. I was originally asked to do this for my daughter's dance company, but anyway, in this video, we're going to go over how to build your very own Letters to Santa mailbox. We're going to go over how you can modify it so that way you can put it on wheels, so that way it's maybe easier to move it around. And then I'll go over a couple different options that you guys could possibly use in the future with your own builds on how you can make it a little bit more festive for the holiday season. So let's get to it and build a mailbox for Santa. So the supplies you'll need if you want to follow along with this build are 2 2x4s, some plywood, a PVC pipe, a mailbox, some fake grass, some great stuff, some type of wheels, screws, and spray paint. Alright, so first thing we need to do is build the frame for the base of the mailbox. To do that, I cut a couple 2x4s. I made this a 2-foot by 2-foot base, so I cut 2 of the 2x4s. Try saying that 10 times fast. But anyway, I cut 2 of the 2x4s at 2 feet. Whew. And then I cut the other 2 2x4s a little bit less than 2 feet, so that way I could make a perfect square. Once the 2x4s were cut, I went ahead and assembled them in a square. And once I got everything lined up and where they needed to be, I just went ahead and put in a couple screws on each corner to hold everything in place. And after assembling the base, I just double checked my measurements, made sure everything was still good, and then cut 2 pieces of plywood that were 2 feet by 2 feet, and then it's time to start assembling the base. So I took my base piece of plywood and attached it to the 2x4s. And then I marked out the center, so that way I could go ahead and outline where the mailbox base will go. I then placed the top on the base. I have not assembled it yet. I just went ahead and set it up there so I would know where to drill the hole for the hole to go through. And then just made sure that everything lined up properly, which it did. And then I took my scrap 2x4s and made a base for the pole. So I just cut 4 of them, lined them up around the circle that I had put in initially for the base to go in. Once everything was nice and lined up and looked good, I then put the base piece of plywood over the pole and then attached it to the 4 corners, and then also to those 4 spare pieces of plywood that we had in the middle. Now, we're still going to do a little bit more to secure that pole in place, but at least now it's not going to move around in the base and get too off kilter. Now the next step is adding the wheels, so that way I can move this around. I actually just had some spare wheels laying around that I was able to use, so that was a win for me. But you could use any types of wheels. You can get them at your local hardware store. You don't even have to use wheels. If you just want to create this as a stationary object, just skip this step. Now the pole that I used for the mailbox was a spare piece of PVC pipe left over from another project, so it kind of worked out for me as well. It was a little bit too tall though, so I just had to cut it down to size. once the pole was cut down to size, it was time to get things ready to attach it to the mailbox. So I took another 2x4 and then I cut the hole for the PVC pipe to go through, and then moved on to painting, where we used 2 different shades of brown. We used 1 shade of brown for the PVC pipe and for the wood that would be attaching to the mailbox, and then another shade of brown on the base that will go underneath the grass. So it doesn't have to be perfect because the grass is going to be covering it, but we just want to make sure that we don't see any of that just exposed lumber. Once the paint dried, it was time to make sure that the pole doesn't move around. So I decided to use great stuff, and I decided to use great stuff for 2 reasons. First off, that once it dries, that pole isn't really going to move around much. But secondly, we're going to use it to make it look almost like dirt, where they took the post and kind of stuck it in the ground. So once the great stuff dried, I got out my sander, sanded it down a little bit, got out my little saw and cut it up a little bit just to make it look more like dirt. And then I painted it with that same color brown that I had used on the base. And then I took a little bit of a darker brown as well, just to give it some accents, to give it more of a realistic dirt look. Now it's time to move back to the mailbox. So I just stuck the 2x4 at the bottom, and I just kind of screwed it in place temporarily with some larger screws up on the bottom, and then I went in through the top in the mailbox, which turned out to be quite hard. My drill that I normally use didn't quite fit, so I had to use a much smaller drill to get it in place. Then we filled the hole up with some great stuff before sticking it on the PVC pipe, and then once it was on the PVC pipe, we just let it dry. Now while the mailbox is drying, I can still continue to work on the base. So I got some AstroTurf or fake grass at my local hardware store, and I just measured out the size of the base, went ahead and cut it, and then just cut kind of just a cross section in the middle, so that way I could fit it over the pole. It was at this point that I realized that I needed to take the mailbox off in order to get this on. Luckily, the great stuff had not dried yet, so I went ahead and stuck that grass on the bottom and then cut off the excess from where I cut kind of that crisscross pattern to make sure that it fit over my great stuff to look, once again, like dirt coming out of the ground. Stuck the mailbox back on top of it, stapled the grass in place, and at this point, you could be finished. I ended up putting grass on the sides, but let's go ahead and take a look at the final results. Now, like I said previously, I did create this mailbox for my daughter's dance team, but if I was going to do it again, especially for Christmas, I would probably paint the PVC to look more like a candy cane, maybe even paint the mailbox red or take some stenciling or something and write letters to Santa on the side. For you guys, get creative, do whatever you'd like, but these are the final results on this build for us. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said in the video, there's a lot of different modifications that you can make to this to really make it your own, whether it's giving that pole more of a candy cane look, maybe adding your own lights, maybe using some Christmas stencils on the mailbox, all kinds of cool stuff you can do. If you want to share your own builds, leave a link in the comments. I'd love to see what you guys are doing out there. But as always, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons to stay up to date and notified with everything that we're doing here at Hidden Creek Manor. I know you do. I know you want to click on those buttons. Just do it. But for now, happy holidays. We'll see you guys in the next one. Congratulations. You made it to the end of the video. As a reward for sticking around, you may now watch one of these 2 videos. The choice is yours, but choose wisely.